Welcome, I'm Donna Smith, and this is Sound Advice. And on Sound Advice, we like to talk about professional and personal development. Well, a little bit about me. I've had 20 plus years managing a number of different programs. Some of those programs have been USDA food programs, and some have been academic programs and more. And what I know is what opposition is, because in some of those industries and working with some of those people, some are difficult and there was opposition. So I know what can work and I want to share that with you. So stay tuned. So the day's topic is how to deal with opposition. Now, first, I just want to talk with you. I just want to have a discussion with you. Let's just set back a little bit. Because before you have an encounter with someone you're having opposition with, you need to think of some questions. And one of those questions are they intimidated by you or are you intimidated by them? And you want to also ask, are they opposing you because of their morals or their beliefs? Now, I've had that situation happen to me. I had opposition and I had to explain carefully about my religious convictions. And so once that was understood and I had to hold my ground on that one, we were able to move forward. So are some of the oppositions because of someone's morals or their belief system? And then you need to ask yourself, is this opposition because you just don't understand their position and or they don't understand your position? So you need to take some time to flesh that all out and think that through. Now, before you go forward and you have this encounter with this individual or that group, you need to pre-package your presentation and start off with things that you believe you can agree upon. So focus on that starting out in this meeting. Those things that you know that we probably are not going to have too much issues with those. And then you can move more into the other issues that you may have more opposition on. But once you do that, you need to keep this in mind. It is so very important that you start that meeting off with expressing that I want to understand your viewpoint. I want to understand your viewpoint and make that crystal clear. And that usually diffuses some of the hostilities and some of that resentment. And then you also want to keep in mind that you're not coming to this encounter with, I'm going to win. I'm going to win. Because if that's your posture, if that's your stance, you can rest assured you're going to have more opposition. And they will take that stance, and then you would take that stance, and now you're on opposite ends, and there's a thick wall in between you, and you don't want that. So don't go into the encounter with that type of mentality. Now, at this point, I want to say, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe by clicking that little button down there in the corner and hit the bell so that when I post a show, you will know. And also, if you haven't visited me on my website, please do so. And I have the webpage listed there so you can see it. Okay, now let's go into that very last point that you need to keep in mind when you're dealing with opposition. If you're getting to the point where it's getting heated, and you know when you've reached that point, then you need to defer back to the initial thing that I said, starting out with things that you think you can agree upon to kind of calm the waters a bit. Now, if you can't do that, if you feel that it's gotten so heated that you can't do that, then I want you to take a time out and just say this, you know what? I really need to process some of these points that you're giving me. Give me some time to do that. Can we meet again this afternoon, or can we possibly meet tomorrow? And when you take that time out, I really want you to process. I want you to think through a number of things. Number one, were you being condescending? What was your tone? Were you respectful in this meeting? Think that through. And I also want you to think through, were you just being stubborn? Were you trying to be mean and just saying anything so you could win an argument? And some of those things that you were saying, you know, weren't true, but you just wanted to win the argument. No. you need to look at yourself. This is self-reflection now before you go back and have that subsequent meeting. And then let's be honest. Let's be honest. Did you lack some knowledge? That person was giving you so many points, and some of those points you really weren't sure what they were talking about because you didn't have enough knowledge. So I want you to take this time to review those points that were being addressed to you and do some research. And tell me this, were you just being arrogant? So I want you to be honest with yourself before you go into this subsequent meeting. Now, if you were to go into this meeting and you kept those things in mind and you processed that and you got prepared and you still are at odds with one another, there is still opposition, then accept it and just accept it. Because you may have to accept, well, think about it. A year from now, is this going to really matter? And if it's not, then keep it moving. But if it is an important issue for you as well as for that person, then accept it. And as we say, we will disagree, but we will disagree agreeably. That's what's important. The important thing is that you understand that individual and you believe that that individual understands you, but you're still at odds with one another. And that's okay, because as we move up the ladder and we are trying to achieve success, we're going to have opposition, so get ready for it. But now I've shared some tools that you can keep in mind that when you're having this opposition, when you're having this resistance, these are some of the things you can do. It would be very unrealistic for you to think that everyone is always going to be on board with you. That's not the case. Sometimes it's good to have opposition because you can learn and you can grow. And that's what we're about when we're trying to achieve success. We are about professional and personal development. Well, keep those things in mind, and I wish you well. I'm Donna Smith, and this is Sound Advice. And I will post shows for Sound Advice usually on Sunday evenings. Sometimes I may post mid-Sunday and early Sunday evening, but I would also post on Wednesday evenings. So be looking for my shows. And again, if you haven't subscribed, please do so.